I took the empty lunchbox out of my bag and carefully put the little bird inside, snapping the Perspex coffin shut. It was mid-afternoon, busy South Belfast Street. Maybe there were crowds, but nobody saw me. My face hot, movement swift, my hand dirty with a dead sparrow. I put it in the bin. All this happened within minutes. The next day, I was travelling to Sligo. I'd offered to spend a few days helping out at an isolated retreat, a lodge set deep in the hilltop cairns. I wanted the earth, and the silence, and the freedom. Unexpectedly, the owner was heading to Dublin for a few days, and I had the entire place to myself. And this suited me well because I didn't want to speak, and I didn't have anything to say. On my first evening there, we kind of circled each other awkwardly, and the lodge became a cage in all of this open air. His attention was uncomfortable. And once he'd gone, I felt relief. That night, I climbed up on the flat roof and spread out under a full moon, sipping my glass of red wine and watching the mist roll in, dangerous and comforting all at once. I breathed deeply, as if calling to myself. There was an eerie stillness to my days spent walking through the dense forest and the surrounding hills, no predetermined route and nobody leading, an expectancy, digging the earth with my boots, prints in the wet mud, brushing the trees, hunting for something. I unearthed a tiny frosted glass bottle, and then I worried as I noticed a woman watching me from behind her net curtains as I dug it up with my fingers. The service station cafe felt like a 90s film set, and I studied the backlit menu and then I ordered a tea. I'm drenched in the sweat of a day's walking, my coat's heavy and my boots are caked in mud. Here, he says, get yourself something hot to eat. I look up from the €5 on the table to see a man, a lorry driver, smiling down at me. It's okay, I didn't want anything to eat. No, get yourself some chips or a hot sandwich. No, really, I have money, I just wanted a tea. Sure, it's only a few euro. No, really, I have my own money, honestly. Look, I've been there myself. I know what it's like. Get yourself something to eat. He places his hand on my shoulder. All right, all the best. I dutifully go to get some chips that I don't even want, and I'm hoping that he leaves soon and that he isn't watching me eat. He's gone by the time I sit down, and I'm touched by his kindness, but disarmed. It's like he pulled me out into the open. And I scan myself, and my hair's wild, and I have the start of a beard, and my shirt is soaked through. I'm sun-baked in my winter's coat, and I laugh to myself. A few days later, I'm in Kuopio in Finland, and I'm here to write about a festival of performance taking place in public spaces all over the city. Interventions designed to amplify or to stretch the little moments of life in Kuopio. So from opera singing to announce the first and the last trains of the day, to day-long embroidery sessions led by a group of local women in a restaurant. Join us to stitch lyrics from your favourite love song on tablecloths. I'm free to flit between all of them anonymously. Kuopio is almost completely surrounded by a lake. And there's a circularity to the city that has me framing this experience as if it's a record to be played. The needle touches down on the first donation of the day at the blood bank, and the opera singer sings. And somewhere else there's a 12-hour stand-up comedy performance, jokes repeating, stumbling into each other in waves of words. In a school, and with one hand tied behind his back, bird with a broken wing, an artist writes a statement over and over again onto a large canvas in the main hallway. A jumble of words, one version erasing the other, marking time, identity and space onto a space full of silent witnesses, a space filled with effort, movement and endurance, a monumental act of creation and erasure. He wants to be seen and to be heard. When I was a child, I had a budgie, and one Sunday morning, I crept down the stairs and I opened the cage to let it fly freely around the living room. But there was nothing graceful about the way it streamed out of my reach, the way it thumped awkwardly against the walls, a ball of vibrant yellow and green swirling in the corner of the room. I swallowed silent panic as it flapped out of the open window and disappeared. I leave the performance at the school, and I see a woman in an off-white cloak, slowly moving through the trees, rustling in the sticks. She's not looking for anything, she's just drifting. She looks like something out of a Star Wars movie. She definitely doesn't belong here. She doesn't belong under these crisp blue skies. She doesn't belong among the vibrant yellow and the green of the houses. She's deliberately standing apart, and it's entirely irrational, but everything about her irritates me. My budgie ended up in the oak tree next door, and Dad tried to coax it back into an open cage, but as the night drew in, it looked less and less likely. I felt sure that if I hoped hard enough that it would hop inside the cage and come home. It just perched stupidly in the tree, stubbornly refusing to go in, and I didn't understand why it had to go back in the cage anyway. The other birds, Dad said, the colours, they'll attack it. The shade of her off-white cloak, she would appear at the most unexpected moment, mournfully moving through the city and drawing attention to herself in darkened performance spaces. I didn't like that we were moving in sync. On a closer reading of the festival programme, I discovered she was an American artist who'd flown to Kuopio, and her silent performance was an apology. Her apology would last the duration of the festival. And she'd walk the city all day, every day, not speaking to anyone that she meets, and then she'd fly away, refusing to engage. Her name was Heather. Early one morning, I took a walk out to the site earmarked for a new housing development. The route was suggested by the festival organisers and was a couple of miles into the mist, into the nothingness that would one day become a home for thousands of people. A plan for the city. I stayed there in quiet contemplation for a while, noticing the lack of birdsong. It was Heather that broke the silence, funnily enough. After a performance in a dark cave, a body moving around a boxing ring, and the scene lit only by the torchlight of the audience, she appeared. We clocked each other and she smiled as we circled the ring. Back in the sunshine, she had a little notebook at the ready, an invitation to write to her because she didn't have a voice, a little call to be heard. I did write to Heather, and she wrote back. A long letter about how an almost word that she nearly spoke caused her a lot of pain. That finally speaking wasn't as liberating as she'd hoped. I had the sense that she regretted not leaving any words in Kuopio as she moved so quietly through the city. On my last day there, I went to a restaurant on the lake to join in the embroidery performance, which was one of the things that I really didn't want to have to go to at all the whole time I was there. The women who'd organised it had been encouraging people to stitch lyrics from their favourite love songs into tablecloths. And so I planned to observe, and I resisted their huddle, but they called me to join them, and I started to pick and thread at the cloth. I found a way to make you, I found a way to make you smile. And I didn't get to embroider that full lyric, but I stayed happily there for a while, sipping a small glass of wine with them, and joining in their songs that I didn't know the words to because they were all in Finnish, but I just hummed along where I could. As I said a silent goodbye to Kuopio mid-afternoon at the lakeside, a group of people started to swarm, and I realised a performance was about to start and that I was going to be a part of it, part of this crowd. And the instructions are simple. See a bird, name it, and then everybody repeat the call. And we shouted and laughed and cackled our hellos and goodbyes, every bird seen, named, and celebrated.